Hey everyone, DayTraderRockStar here, and market update video and some kick-ass trades for you for this week. We're going into the week of April. We're going to be April 9th on Monday. We're going to start off earnings seasons this next week with Alcoa coming out on Tuesday, and I'll be covering those earnings every day after the market closes, continuously on DayTradingRadio.com. So come and join me then. We're on the air every day. From 8:30 to, again, it'll be after the close now, going into earnings season after 4:30. But right now we're just going to go take a look at the market conditions and talk about what's going to happen next week. For the last 2 weeks, I put out the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and we called for a rally each of those Mondays. And those were basically calls from the 60-minute setups. We used the 60-minute to get our timing a little bit better on the daily. You might see one thing on the daily chart, you might see an a nice little trend, but you don't see the real timing. I mean, if you get oversold once back here and back here, you don't want to wait until November and then to March to take another very bullish setup in the market. So we break it down to the 60-minute chart, and that gives us a faster entry for faster moves. So the last two setups here, we actually had this nice setup here out of this pullback. Nice little flag, so called a rally into that. We got that big pop, we got overbought, we pulled back, got oversold again. And then going into Monday here, we called for another rally. Even though we were overbought, we called for that rally here, and it filled out the top of the pattern here. Then we pulled back, and then on Wednesday and Thursday we left off right here, and we are kind of oversold on the 60. But we have this upward channel. This is an upward sloping channel which typically breaks to the downside, and we're going to break to the downside because if you haven't been paying attention, on Friday the futures were open in the morning, and we were able to see the non-farm payrolls and unemployment data come out, and it actually hit the market. Market just sold off about 15 points on the futures, all the way down to 1374 on the futures. And if this held up and we gapped down to that 1380 to 1375 area on the futures, on the cash on Monday, that would set us up for some interesting levels, and I want to show you those on the chart. But just remember, going into on Friday, we had the gap down on the futures, so we very possibly can have a gap down Monday morning. Not to say it's a guarantee. But this is going to be an opportunity. Very little liquidity on a non-open market day. Yeah, you have some sellers coming in. They actually just can really control the market because there's really no buyers right now. So they're able to really push the market down. They pushed it down. That's fine. Monday comes, things are going to adjust. Some people will get scared, thinking, "Oh my God, the market's crashing." It's not crashing. It's pulling back. We take a look at we look at the potential where we're going to pop down to, and I said, we just put out on a video, the potential for this 1375 area that comes under 1370 to 1375. There's an underlying trend line that goes all the way out to January. It hits through March 7th, and it goes to January 30th. And that's exactly again, and there's also that that used to be resistance line, now is going to be support line. So this whole area comes into play. We're already oversold on the 60, which is nice. And the daily, the daily is negative, but that's going to get us closer to being oversold. And also that 50-period moving average is right underneath us at 1368. So that whole 1370 to 1375 to 68. Very big levels. Nothing's really breaking down yet. I don't consider this bearish. I actually consider this an opportunity going into this week. And now, one thing, the stock I want to be talking about this week, and which I'll be definitely focused on this week on the show, is the oil service sector, or even XLE. So we're not seeing anything really damaging on the chart, and this trend is just continuing. We recently broke out the 52-week highs. More than that, more than 52-week highs. I don't know how many years this goes out, but we definitely broke out to some levels, and it makes sense that we get a little retracement or a little pullback. And the daily stochastics pulling back quickly here. So let's talk about this sector that I'm looking at. We're gonna talk about a couple of the ETFs. We're gonna start off. Well, actually, let's talk about Halliburton as a one of the stocks in the sector, one that I like. You can see the nice downward channel. But what we're looking at is, first of all, we're taking into consideration we might have a gap down. So if we have that gap down, we're going to see where do we want to be concentrating. Well, establish your patterns by using recognizable trend lines, the pivot areas, the oversold stochastics on the 60 and the underlying trend line that starts with the gap there, the connecting lines, the parallel lines, and you come to a good gauge that if each time you do pull back here, you get oversold, trend line, you have a good reactionary bounce. So it makes very good sense. Risk rewards is really good at this point, because if we do get any type of gap down, there's a good shot that we're going to push this way and eventually break out of this pattern to the upside. So it's an excellent entry, and Halliburton is a good stock to look at that. This one looks great. Schlumberger SLB, which currently I'm in. A very similar situation. We zoom out and we take a look at the lower trend line, and you can see the two established this point here and this point here. You have this 2 points, really 3 points, drawing that trend line in, and I take that lowest pivot area, which is right here, and I draw that trend line just in case I put another one here, and you can find this whole area starts to come into play. 67.70 to 66.70. We're trading at 68.42, so it's not that far down. 50 to $1. You're going to be, and if we get that gap down, we could push these stocks right down into an important level, and Schlumberger would be something on my list to definitely jump on. We're oversold on the daily, and we're oversold on the 60. A little gap down wouldn't scare me. That's another good stock that actually, again, we're going to be paying attention to reversal candlesticks all week in this sector, because once we see that, that's when we're going to step up the game and double down on our position. Well, for me, I will, gradually scale in on the gap down. I'll take the risk out of the market with the gap down, knowing where my trend lines are. I have these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stocks in that sector on this week's watch list. So a lot of different choices. Also gold stocks, and again, the XLE is really a good example of an ETF in this sector, which has a gradual pullback. We're definitely getting oversold on the daily, and you could actually see that we have this nice little, you could probably start to manage putting in some kind of channel line here, and you're holding the 200, but once you put it down to the 60, you're definitely going to see something much more interesting. That's right, you see a nice wedge pattern. A wedge pattern like this, which is really defined. You have everything you want on it. You have a nice wide, you have the nice angle to it. There's certain people, I don't like to trade wedges like that. I don't like to trade them very steep ones, very ones like that. It has to be a decent wedge pattern. It has to have this angle to it, and this is a perfect wedge setup. So a gap down, once again, a gap down on the XLE or anything in that sector is going to bring us down to the lower part. We're already oversold on the 60, we're already oversold on the daily. This looks like a textbook perfect entry if we get that gap down, which I expect to get early Monday, and I would look for that reversal. And if we got that reversal candlestick, especially a candlestick closes on the highs after that gap down and taking out previous lows, and sitting right on that trend line, we are good to go, and probably a fantastic trade setup for this week here. So that's why I want to bring it to you. Don't forget, I broadcast every day in the markets and show you these setups live. Just stop at DayTraderRockStar.com. Nice little television screen comes up. You can actually see the markets live and hear the setups and see the trades being taken. So hope you can stop by and check that out. This week, definitely looking at the oil service sector, looking at a gap down early Monday, and we'll probably do another update midweek.